How are you all? Hopefully, all of you guys will be healthy at your home during this tough time. Today is your host Shubham Kumar, and welcome back to Legal Talk series once again. Today is a very big day for me, and you also call that it's a very special day for me because today I feel very fortunate and very pleased that you came on Legal Talk show, ma'am. Today's respected Dr. Kalpana Gopalan, ma'am, is present among us today, and today I got to take a chance to take your blessings, and today I got to take your holy blessing that I'm always want. And thank you so much, ma'am, that you take out your precious time for us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. And currently, ma'am is currently serving as a diplomat in state government of Karnataka. So I'm always want to talk to you, ma'am. And thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Shubham. Thank you for having me this morning. And it's my pleasure and privilege to talk to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First of all, I would like to know about your background. Where are you came from, and where did you complete your education? And what was the time that you thought that you should become an IAS officer?
Okay. Well, I am the daughter of the original two states marriage. Yes, my father is a Tamil, my mother is a Gujarati. Okay, so my childhood was spent between school days in Chennai, then it was called Madras, and holidays in Ahmedabad. I did my schooling in Chennai, yes, in the Vidyodaya Girls High School. It was an exclusive, not a co-ed school, it was an exclusive girls' school. And then I went on to do my BA and my MA in English in Stella Maris College, Chennai. Again, exclusively a women's college. But that is the formal education. Once I had completed my master's, I drifted naturally into a PhD program. I was a good student. I wrote the common examination for research admission, which was held, which is a combined examination of all the IITs for PhD. Just like JEE is for the BTech, it's the PhD common examination, which used to be held in those days. Yes, and I topped that exam and with a percentile score of some 99 odd. And I joined IIT Madras for a PhD program. The one thing was that my interests were in social sciences and humanities. And IIT is a technological institution. So there was, the fit was not quite right. So then IAS was a fallback option. I had thought of academics. Learning is the passion. But I did write. I studied quite diligently in my usual way, and I joined the IAS. I think I secured the 19th rank in the civil services examination, and I joined the IAS. So this is how I came into the IAS. It was not some burning ambition. It was serendipity. So I think that's the long answer to your question.
But basically, what inspired you the most to become an IAS officer?
See, there was always this, there was a respect for government. My mother herself worked in government. My father was in the private sector, but he was also formally, he had worked in government. So there was always that respect. And I think most of all, my uncle and a neighbor. It's a very strange thing now to say that a neighbor is, motivated you. But those were the days in Chennai. It was like a small village. And everyone knew everyone else, and we were all in and out of each other's houses. So one of my neighbors, he kind of saw my potential, and he used to keep saying that, you should write the civil services exam. And I think motivation came from there. So basically, that was it.
you have cracked the, basically you have cracked the exam in first attempt, or you have tried the so many attempts to crack the exam?
I cracked it in the first attempt. Okay, I also stood fairly high in the merit list. Okay, I was 19th in the merit list, and I cracked it in the first attempt.
So, ma'am, you have secured 19th rank in All India Civil Services Combined Exam. So, what was the strategy that on those days that you have prepared for the Civil Services exam? Can you please elaborate?
Okay. I think this will be useful even for students now, because broadly the structure of the exam remains the same. I chose my master's was in English, so that was one of my subjects. The other was history. Yes, so I prepared very thoroughly at master's level. My preparation for the optional subjects was at master's level. In fact, subsequently,
ma'am, you have done your graduation in which subject, ma'am?
I did my graduation and the BA and MA in English at that time. Subsequently, after entering the IAS, I did a second master's in history, because I had studied history for the civils. And then mid-career, I did a master's in public policy and a doctorate in public policy from IIM Bangalore. So my original degree was the BA and MA were in English. So that was one of my options. History was the other optional subject. I prepared at master's level. I kept myself apprised of current affairs completely, dating back to a year before the examination. Little more than a year before the examination. So everything I used to read, Frontline, India Today, Hindu, and other major newspapers, but these were the mainstay of my preparation. And I think I used to prepare about, say, 8 to 10 hours a day. You recall that I was doing my PhD at that time. I was enrolled in IIT Madras, so I was attending college, but I was also doing the studies in my spare time. So I prepared quite diligently and systematically, putting in regular hours. But this was the sum total: master's level in the optionals, and keeping abreast of current affairs, and all others, general knowledge and other subjects. It was around, say, between SSLC to +2 level was the preparation, say, in science or mathematics for the preliminary examination. I did not make a separate study for preliminary and main. Straight away, I just jumped into it and went. For the interview, I didn't join any tutorial. But for the interview, I prepared with questions. I used to think of what kind of questions would be asked and make short notes as my replies. So that was about it, my preparation. It was systematic. And as I said, I had, in fact, little less than a year to prepare. But
thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your valuable journey and valuable work that will definitely inspire you, the most of the student who is preparing for the government or competitive exam. Yeah. So, ma'am, my second last question is for you, that your incredible contribution towards 34's incredible.
Shubham, your voice is breaking.
Ma'am, now am I audible to you?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, ma'am, your 34 years incredible contribution towards Karnataka government. So, can you please share your experience from the very initial years?
Okay. See, the IAS is an evolutionary service. So you enter at the level of a subdivisional officer. In Karnataka, we call it assistant commissioner. In the northern states, called SDO, and a subdivisional magistrate. You have some powers. Then you move up the ladder in the field level as the CEO of the Zilla Panchayat. In those days, it used to be called Chief Secretary of the Zilla Panchayat, where you deal with development work. And then you move further, almost laterally, to become District Collector or Deputy Commissioner, as it is called here, where again you have magisterial powers. As you grow into the service, then you enter into the State Secretariat. It could be State Secretariat or the Central Secretariat, where if you opt for the central posting, where you are looking at policy making. So you bring your field experience to bear into policy making. You also have higher levels of field experience, like a managing director or the CEO of an authority. And as secretary to a department, in the policy making role, you get promoted and you start as secretary, then you in fact start as deputy secretary, joint secretary, you move into secretary, principal secretary, and ACS, which is the apex scale where I am now. So it's a kind of evolutionary ladder. But at the same time, you also get cross-sectoral experience, because you are not just working in one department. Say, let us look at some central service. Let's take income tax. You will be working in income tax most of your career. But we move laterally across sectors. So now I am handling labor and public grievances. A few months ago, I was looking at animal husbandry and fisheries department. I have worked in education. I worked in power. I worked in multiple departments. I worked in sports. So you get that lateral cross-sectoral experience. So on the one side, it is evolutionary. There is a depth. And as you move higher up the ladder, you move from a field role into a policy making role. But you also have the lateral cross-sectoral experience. So that is how, you learn and then you give back to the job. Now, some moments stand out. And generally, I think for me, my own self-identity is that of a learner. You see me as an IAS officer, a civil servant, but from the outside. But from the inside, I have been a learner, and I learn from people around me. And I have been surprised by the kind of affection and acceptance that I have got from my colleagues, my subordinates, and the people of India, and the open way in which they embrace you. And one of the most wonderful experiences of my life was, okay, let me narrate this particular experience, which stands out. About, say, 25 odd years ago, I was a deputy secretary in the Rural Development Department.
Yes, ma'am.
And we used to give the seed money, it was called, some 10,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees to entrepreneurs, rural entrepreneurs, to set up a rural enterprise. Now, one rural entrepreneur, his name was Badappa, he from Bidar district, and I was in Bangalore. He had given an application to get that seed money, and he traveled all the way from Bidar to Bangalore to meet me to request. He was a very young entrepreneur at that time, and I too was a very young officer. But I really didn't wait for people to come and meet me and request. For me, if there is a matter before me, an issue before me, it will be dealt with and disposed of. So even before he reached Bangalore, and I didn't even know he was coming, even before he reached Bangalore, I had cleared his file and the order has been issued.
Yes, ma'am.
So he came to my office. I was out of the office for some meeting or something, and my PA told him, don't meet, madam, your work is already done. And he gave him the order, and that Badappa went on his way. This happened sometime in 1996. And I didn't know about it at that time. In 2013, I was the managing director of Kaveri Handicrafts. At that time, I had already become fairly senior in the service. And my officers took me to Bidar to see the handicraft clusters there. We used to have clusters of complexes, handicraft complexes, where artisans used to live and work. And they took me to a unit which makes sandalwood figures. So, Karnataka is famous for sandalwood. So Kaveri Handicrafts, which is the Karnataka Handicrafts Development Corporation, which is our state handicraft, we purchase sandalwood from the forest department and give it to to artisans because it's a regulated commodity, and they make figures, which are in turn these figures or boxes. These are sold in our own showrooms. And when I went to this showroom, the reception was so warm. Generally, people are nice; they receive you well. But this was like really heartfelt and warm, and I could feel it. And so I went around, and then the promoter of that unit, he said, "Do you remember me?" I said, "No." And he told me that he was the person, Badappa. Of course, I never met him, but he knew my name because he had come to meet me. He said, "I had come long ago to meet you, and you sanctioned this unit, and it is because of you that this unit is functioning now." And not only that he had prospered, but he had given employment to about 150 destitute women who were engaged there in making. And that day when I visited him happened to be my birthday. So it was such a wonderful birthday gift that, 18 or 20 years later, people remember you.
Yes,
they remember your name, and it was, it was a glorious day,
yes,
so to say. So this is, this kind of incidents stand out. And let me narrate one more incident at the cost of taking your time. The few days, this happened only about, say, a month or so ago. It was a Sunday,
yes,
and Sundays are also very busy.
Yes,
I'm either talking to people like you or doing some research or something. It was a very busy morning, but there was a call, a number which I didn't recognize, a number which I was not saved on my phone. But though I was very busy, I just picked the call. And this person happened to be a laborer from Mysore. Okay, and now I work in the labor department.
Yes, ma'am.
And he told me that his daughter had been bitten by a dog. And the injection had to be put, anti-rabies, which cost 300 rupees. And he didn't have 300 rupees with him at the time. And he was standing outside the hospital in Mysore, not in Bangalore. I was in Bangalore. He said, "Someone gave me your number." I had been district secretary of Mysore, so people in Mysore knew me. He said, "Someone gave me your number and said you will help." So I'm just standing outside the hospital. My daughter has been bitten by a dog. So then I just called my officer and said that this is what has happened. Just see what can be. And we actually don't have, this particular, we have schemes for construction. We have different categories of, schemes and laborers.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing really which fit his particular situation. And I told my officer, just do something. So luckily for the girl, he happened to be in Mysore at that time. So he had, it was a Sunday, he had gone for a family visit. He said, yes, "Madam, there's no scheme which fits this issue, but I'll just see what I can do." So he went to that hospital. This person was standing there with his daughter, and all this happened within a half an hour. Okay, I'm taking longer to narrate it than the actual.
No, ma'am, it's not an issue.
And he went there, and he checked that. He immediately transferred 1,000 rupees because he was not having in hand. But this is the days of net banking and Paytm and all. So he was able to transfer 1,000 rupees, and the girl got her anti-rabies. And I'll share her picture with you, maybe on the mail. You can put it in the.
Sure, ma'am.
And she, I don't know how to do it in this thing, but I'll send it to you on mail. And she got her anti-rabies, and it was very gratifying at that, and one always thinks, people from the outside think government officers are like this and like that. But I still, I in fact, I appreciate my officer who took the trouble, even though he went above and beyond the call of duty, so to say, and was immediately responsive. And that little girl was, okay, and she's fine. So these are, these kind of incidents stand out. in a very broad canvas of, I will be completing 34 years of work in the civil service. And, there are so many such incidents which stand out where, people surprise us with their generosity, with their open-mindedness. So all the time, what you see in the media is this is bad, India is like this, India is like that. But it's a wonderful country with the best people in the world, the great people of India.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your interesting story of your life. And ma'am, today's where you are, it's all because of your noble cause that you did work for the peoples that you are situated in Karnataka. And it is not matter where are you came from and where people that you have held from. So it's all have did that you work did from the noble cause, ma'am. Uh, thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your this interesting story, and it will definitely inspiring you the all the girls and boys which will come from the very few states and very poor society. You can also call the orthodox society. So thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing this story.
Thank you.
Ma'am, my last question is for you that there are a lot of students in our India who are preparing for the government competitive exam as well as civil services exam. So can you please share your general tips for them?
Okay. Yeah. See, let me give you a more balanced perspective on this. When you prepare for any competitive exam, everything is relative. How good you are than the others who are writing, vis-a-vis others who are writing the exam. What I have found is that systematic and diligent preparation helps. UPSC fairly well organized. The exam is tried and tested. Even when I wrote, there were daughters of ministers who wrote along with me, union ministers, but I scored higher and I entered the IAS, whereas they entered one of the other services. So it's a very fair examination. Meeting people, finding talking tips, have a limited help, but what matters most is that you put your head to the books and you study. So that kind of regular systematic daily preparation helps. That said, I want to emphasize that the civil service exam, CSC, is just another examination. And the IAS or any of the civil services is just another career. It is a very good way of public service. A very good way in which, because it's a job or a career which gives you a certain satisfaction, which gives you prestige, which keeps you reasonably comfortable, not as wealthy as your private sector counterparts, but reasonably well off. But this is not the only way in which public service can be done. Those were the old days, my days, where you are interested in public service. The way to go is the IAS or the civil services.
Yes, ma'am.
Today, public service is a much broader arena. And all of us, regardless of the career in which we are or the job in which we do, you are a lawyer, a budding lawyer. My daughter is a budding lawyer too. You can still do your public service regardless of the career which you have chosen.
Yes, ma'am.
And I always emphasize that all of us should have a dual career.
Yes,
ma'am. So for me, it's the civil service is my bread and butter career. It pays the bills. I get my salary from out of it. But then I have another career as a speaker, as a mentor, as a volunteer, where I pay back. One career pays my bills, but in the other career, I pay my debt to society.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that, regardless, if you're a lawyer, keep some time apart. Because your personal social responsibility does not go away just because you are in a private sector career or an academic career or you're a volunteer. All of us have PSR. All of us have to recognize our personal social responsibility. We owe responsibility to society regardless of where we are working. And you can, fulfill your social responsibility, your personal social responsibility in any way. You can, just look around you, and whoever is most in need of help, start small. Your family, your neighbors, some children around you, your household staff. If they are in need of help, help them, and it will grow. Choose an area in which you are interested. Now, if your expertise is law, give legal aid, or choose something where you have a passion for. I told you my daughter is a lawyer. She spends her spare time looking after in a shelter for stray cats. She likes cats, and she spends her weekends in this shelter looking after the stray cats. So that is her passion, and she gives back in that way. I have a classmate who is a good singer.
Yes, ma'am.
She's a homemaker. She spent some time in hospital ICUs or in hospital wards singing to the patients. That is her passion. So don't choose something, which you're not interested in. You should be either have an expertise or have an interest in that. So it will keep you going. Give in any way you can, not necessarily financial. You can give your time, you can give your learning. I share my learning. I share my life experience because God has been kind to me. I have benefited richly from people who are better than me. I have learned from minds which are far greater than my mind. And I would like to share. So choose something like that. It need not be the IAS. It need not be the civil services. You can still do public service because you are still a citizen of this nation, and you have a personal social responsibility to India. So that is what I would like to share with all of you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing this very good information with our all viewers. And now this is time to stop our conversation. And today, I'm very glad that you came on Legal Talk Show. And thank you so much once again for sharing your valuable time, ma'am.
Thank you, Shubham. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Best wishes.